sorry about that, guys. I will just keep going how I am. Righto, let's get started. So I've got my sausage rolls. They're just the traditional sausage rolls on the screen, and I'm actually even going to make you the pastry today. So I'm just going to click start cooking, and this is one of those recipes that you can, they're really easy, and you can actually make them ahead of time just to make when you're entertaining it a lot more easy. So what we need to start off with is just some plain flour. So this is just your regular everyday flour for making pastry. And when you're making pastry, you want to be able to have really cold butter, which is in the fridge. Just give me 1 second. I've forgotten to grab that. So I've kept my butter really cold so that you get a really lovely crispy pastry. So we've got 220 grams of plain flour, and then we've got 170 grams of butter. And what I've done is I've just cubed this into sort of little centimetre cubes. And there's a few people jumping on just as we get going. So excuse me if I just have to let a few people in as we go. There's a few last minute registrations happening. A little bit of pinch of salt. And what we're going to do now is just pulse the pastry. So instead of, in the old days, well, previously I would have just rubbed it with my fingers. Now I'm just using turbo, just 2 or 3 times. And when I click next, that's when the arms will open on your turbo, which just allows, keeps everything safe there. So once I've done that, all that butter is just sort of rubbed through the flour. And I'm sorry, I've just forgotten to get my little jug of water. So what we need now is just some water. Now it's usually pretty cold, shouldn't be cold at the moment, but of course it is. What you can do is put an ice block in your water if it's not feeling cold. And we just want to weigh in 80 grams of water. Now I've made this pastry a few times, and I know that you can actually use a little bit less water than what the recipe says. So I'm actually just going to put 60 grams of water in and show you how that comes together. These are the little tips that you actually learn from coming along to nights like tonight so that we can share with you our experiences of making these recipes if you haven't done them before. Okay, so we're almost done there. Okay. So we're going to tip that out, and it just says to pop it in some cling film. Now, you can also use one of our great baking mats just to rest your pastries. I've actually made a batch earlier, which I've had in the fridge because I want it needs to set for half an hour. So to make things a little bit easier tonight, I have already done that. Now my pastry has come together. It's a little bit sticky because it is a fairly high butter pastry. So this is a short crust pastry, when I can get my words out. So I'm just going to pop this pastry on a second mat, and I'm actually just going to save this in the fridge for a day or so, and I'm going to use this for another batch of sausage rolls actually later in the week. So this is something you can freeze. You can definitely put it in the freezer and bring it up to almost room temperature just before you want to roll it out. And one of the little tips that I often share with people when you can't get the pastry off the blade in the centre is just to pop your bowl back on your Thermomix. Just hit the home button. It'll bookmark exactly where you're at in the recipe. You can swipe across to turbo, lock the arms in place, and just engage turbo for a second. And just by doing that, you'll actually send a lot of that pastry off the blade to the outside of your bowl, and you can just get that little bit extra out of your bowl. So it does make it a little bit easier just to scrape. Sorry, it's a bit hard to do that and actually show you at the same time. Scrape that on the outside. So this is actually it sort of feels like quite a wet pastry. So I'm just going to wrap that one up and put it in the fridge, and I'm going to roll out my second batch in a few moments for you. But we're actually going to jump straight on and make the filling. Now you don't need to clean the bowl. You can just leave it as it is. And we're going to be using some onion. So we're just going to chop the onion up now. So I'm just going to pop that in. Now I had pre-weighed that actually, so I didn't tear the scales. And this is where the Thermomix is great for chopping onions, so you don't have to get sore eyes. sore eyes or onions on your hands. So that's a really great thing about love this. Now we're just going to scrape that down again. But it is chopping it fairly fine because you don't want big chunks of onion in your sausage roll. That's the last thing we want. And just another 2 seconds just to chop that finely. Okay, so now we're going to add some, it says, good quality pork sausage meat. So I have done this with a combination of the beef and pork mince that you could buy from the supermarket. But today I was actually at the butcher and asked them for some sausage mince, and they do a pretty good quality sausage mince. So I'm just going to add that in. Now it's probably about 500 grams, that one, because I just asked them for half a kilo. Now, what the recipe then calls for is some mixed herbs. So I've got my mixed herbs here, but I'm also going to add in a few breadcrumbs. This is not in the recipe, but I think it makes a difference, and it just stops you having too much moisture coming out of your bread, out of your sausage rolls. Now, a few people have asked me, I don't know if anyone on tonight is gluten-free. Is there anyone who's gluten-free? Usually there's always somebody. There's actually a gluten-free recipe on Cookie Dough, which one of my friends says is amazing. So next thing I'm just going to add is some pepper, and the recipe doesn't call for it, but I'm actually just going to add a bit of salt. I do think it needs a little bit of salt. So a bit of seasoning there, and it's actually just using, might be able to see here the wheat little emblem here. It's just the knead function for 30 seconds, and it's just going to bring that dough together. Now, just move a few of these away, and I'm going to show you how to roll out the pastry. Now, I've got one of these fantastic rolling pins. Now, these are in the mix shop, and they make it really easy to roll out pastry. Just going to grab just a little bit of flour while that mix is going. And it is a little bit cold because it's been in the fridge. But you always want to have that little bit of extra flour just because it is a high butter pastry and you don't want it to stick. So I always make sure that I've got plenty of flour available. Now, the recipe is actually going to tell you on the instructions that we want to roll this out roughly to around 50 centimetres and roughly 40. So that's fairly wide. I actually think you can get away with a little bit less if you are good at rolling out in a rectangle. So if you want to make this really easy, you can just buy some pre-made pastry from the supermarket, and you could cut those, they come in I think almost squares. You could just cut that in half and that would get you a really quick result. And I think if you were dairy free, there is you can buy pastry at the supermarket that doesn't have dairy in it. So if that's something that's important for your household, just look into the ingredients on the back of the packet and you'll be able to see that. Now, when you're rolling out your pastry on these mats, because I'm going to trim and sort of cut these in a minute, I'm absolutely not going to be using a knife on here. So I'm actually going to use our spatula in just a moment. I think I'm almost there. I'm roughly at around 40 centimetres. So I'm just going to go a little bit further. Now, I think sausage rolls can be great for adults and children alike. Has anybody already made? I know Mary has a great sausage roll recipe, which is one of her favourites. Anybody else got anything they like to add in sausage rolls specifically? All right. Now that's pretty good. I'm just going to grab a clean spatula because my last one's got sausage mince on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roughly come to about 15 centimetres on the mat, and the guide here is actually really handy just so that you can approximately work out where you need to slice your pastry. And I'll just come to 45. Now, I'm not perfect here by all means, but I'm not a perfect cook and I don't worry about it. So you can just trim these off a little bit. You can always just roll those pastry ends up, but it is handy just to have them squared off a little bit. And what I'm actually going to do tonight is bake some of these to show you what the finished product is, but I'm actually also going to freeze some. So it's really handy to make these ahead of time and then have them in the freezer, and then you can actually just bring them out, pop them on a tray and bake them straight from frozen, which is really kind of time saving and great when you can do things ahead of time so that you've actually got the time to spend with family and friends. So after that's all combined together, the sausage mince, just asking it to scrape down. It's just going to mix it for another couple of seconds. Another 15 seconds. I'm not even sure that it really needs it. It looks pretty good. I'm just going to stop that because I'm pretty happy at how well it's come together. Serena's got carrot, apple, onion, breadcrumbs, and herbs, zucchini, carrot, potato. I love all these suggestions, guys. It's great to hide some extra veggies in your sausage rolls, so that can be really good. So you can see my mix now. What I would do with the veggies is obviously just make sure you've chopped them really finely and just pop them in, you know, maybe or pop them in with the onion so you get them nice and fine. So I'm just going to pop this a little bit down the center. Maybe I'll just do one and then I can do the rest while we're moving on to the next thing. Now, I tend to get my hands in here because I think it works well just to shape them a little bit with your hand into a little circle. And I'll just quickly give that a wash now that I've got sausage on my hand. And what we are going to use is you want your sausage rolls to seal. So to do that, I'm going to grab an egg and a little fork and just have some beaten egg to help close this. Now, look, I know there's lots of people some people have an egg allergy. If you really couldn't have egg, you could actually just probably use some water and that would work. But the beaten egg also gives you a really pretty gloss on top of the sausage rolls when you cook them. And I did a few the other day and I actually used some sesame seeds on the top. So you can do that as well if you'd like to. So with your sausage rolls, just grab your egg wash and just paint some of that egg wash down one side of your pastry, and that's going to help seal it. I think you can see that all right. Okay, so we're going to roll up our little log here. And I might have almost been a bit too generous with my filling. The other day I wasn't generous enough, so I've probably gone overboard this time. And if you just, I tend to roll it round in a bit of a circle, and I roll that on the underside. Okay, somebody else is now coming onto our class. It's amazing how many people come on a little bit later. Okay, next thing I want to make sure that you do is don't cut your sausage rolls up on your mat. So definitely at this stage you want to grab a board, and I'm just going to grab a serrated knife. Now you can cut them however big you like. I think I'll just bring that back just a little bit. Okay, so you want to cut them in sort of little bite-sized pieces, and then we're going to pop them onto some trays. Okay, so once you've got that all sorted, now I don't know if any of you've got these trays. They are one of my favourite things that I use in the kitchen all the time. And I love them because they've got these little liners, so you don't need to use baking paper, and they're actually really easy to clean. So once you've got your sausage rolls ready to bake, it's great to make sure you let the air escape. So you can grab your pair of scissors and just cut a little hole in the top of them. And that will allow the moisture to escape through the pastry. And then what we can do is we can get a bit of egg wash. Now I tend to make a bit of a mess here. If you want to at this point, you can also put some seeds on like I mentioned, or you can just leave them as they are. And I'm going to pop them into a hot oven. So I've got my oven ready to go so I can show you what these look like at the end. And that's sausage rolls. I think that's taken me maybe 15 minutes prep work to get that done. So I'm just going to set my timer here, 220, and it's about 20 minutes Where's my, I'm on the wrong, where's making sure I get that timer right. So that's on 25 minutes and away we go. So we are going to pop over to Mary now, and I'll just make sure I can pin Mary to the front. Perfect. And I'll just take my pin off, and Mary's going to share some great little canapes with you.
Hi everyone, good evening.
We were going to go to Ellie. I'm sorry, we were going to go to Ellie. Are you ready to go, Ellie? I'm so sorry. My fault. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
You're good to go. This is a great one, so I can't wait to see it.
Just gotten rid of my little helper, who I'm sure most of you have seen, but unfortunately Freya's got a little bit of croup at the moment, so she's very mum orientated, which is a bit difficult. So in the spirit of that, I'm going to make a cocktail. So I'm going to be making an amaretto sour. For those of you who aren't aware, I'm going to go through how you can change your filters on Cookie Do shortly so that you can actually get a few more recipes up, some recipes from America and things like that. So we will go through and make our amaretto sour. This shouldn't really take very much time at all, but it is also going to showcase how amazing it is to have that second bowl handy. And I am also going to take out the bourbon because it does just make it that little bit too bourbony. I find that taste quite overpowering. So we will sub that one out, probably for a bit more amaretto, really. So the recipe is actually just saying here we want to place the first bowl into position, which just gives us that idea that we do want those two bowls. I have got the amaretto here. And we're just going to go to 85 grams of that, but we'll probably just go up to 100 just because we're not going to put that bourbon in. Skip that bit. A little bit of lemon juice. Now, I have also made some sugar syrup. A couple of weeks ago was Freya's birthday, so I made that so that I could do some sugar cookies. So we're going to use some of that today instead of maple syrup. So it's just 2 teaspoons, just going to guess. And it was super duper easy to make and just easy to keep as well. Some bitters. This is a great recipe as well to have a look at the scaling that you can do. So recipe scaling's not long coming. I'm not sure if Belinda's mentioned that yet, but it is where you can adjust your...
I haven't, Ellie, so that
adjust your portions. So while that one is just going there for 2 minutes, I'm just going to share my screen with you guys. Oh, wait, I can't share my screen.
Oh, hold on. I'll be able to fix that, I'm pretty sure. Share. Sorry, I was just having a look in settings. I'm not sure why you can't share it. Share all windows automatically.
You can't, I can just show on my phone.
I'm sorry, I can't.
No, that's okay. So, just moving away from the Thermomix while it's going there, just so that I've got a good area to talk to you guys. So on your app, your Cookie Do app, you will see up in this top right-hand corner that you've got your own little profile here. So in here, you can actually go in and adjust the preferences that you've got on here. So if you want to click on preferences, it will go through some different stuff as well, and you can just go update filter. When you do sign up for your Cookie Do, you are actually asked to put in a country, and that does restrict the recipes that you get to see on here. So obviously your language is English or whatever language you want to speak really, but if you go down here and unclick Australia, you will come up with much more recipes as well. So the amaretto sour is actually an American recipe, but they have put it over into metric as well, but it will come up with the American measurements if you haven't got that filter off. So that is a really great tip for using your cookie dough and getting the most out of your actual app and your Thermomix as well. So you'll find a heap of recipes that are American on there that we just won't get here. Some recipes will be doubled up, but that's the beauty of it. You can pick which one you want to use. So that one is finished. So I'm just going to show you guys. It has just been mixing. It's not very exciting. Ooh, there it is. Smells really, really good though. So we are going to pop our second bowl in. Now I did put all of these through the pre-clean cycle with some vinegar earlier, just so that it will help when we are putting our egg whites through. So going to pop out butterfly whisk in. And I've just got 2 egg whites here, which we are going to place in the bowl.
I know quite a few other girls that rave about this cocktail, so I'm really keen to see the result.
Pretty amazing. So we're just going to go to 2 minutes on speed 3.5, whipping until we've got glossy peaks that will form. So Lachlan, if you jump onto cookie dough, you will see that there will be the amaretto sour in brackets. It'll say metric. So there'll be 2 different recipes. They are rated differently. So you will see that the recipe that is rated higher is actually the American one, and the one that is in metric will be a little bit further down. I mean, they're much of a muchness, really. I do find that American recipes get higher rating, but I'm just not sure if it's because they do rate their recipes more often than we do. Another really great tip as well with your cookie dough, if you do go in and you start liking recipes, and you actually can click just on your rating and you can rate your recipes, and it will bring up more recipes that are similar to that. And the more you rate your recipes, the better your filter system will be on your cookie dough as well. So if I rate this 5 stars, we can save that and it will bring up more recipes similar to that, and it'll keep that in your filters as well. So it'll be much more like your For You section, where it'll bring up more things that you are searching for in your cookie dough as well.
Yeah, it's quite handy how it's a bit intuitive like that. And it, you know, once you've cooked things and you like it, it'll search recipes that it suggests that might be good for you, which is really good. I looked up some recipes with a new customer today, and a search function. I saw recipes I'd never seen before. There's still so many recipes on there that I'm even yet to try.
Yeah, there's plenty and plenty of recipes. So we've got those nice glossy stiff peaks coming up. So the timing is pretty much spot on here. If you don't have a second bowl and you want to do this recipe, the part that needs the second bowl, you literally just take the first part out. You can put it in a measuring cup or something else to then pop over your egg whites. So here's our egg whites after 2 minutes. Beautiful. Now we're just going to pop our reserved amaretto mixture over that. Now this is just going to mix it in for 15 seconds on speed 3. We still do have our butterfly whisk in there as well, and it's just really important for butterfly whisk not to go over speed 4 as well, just as a handy reminder.
Now we're almost at serving time.
Yes.
Or pre-chilled.
Pre-chilled cocktail glass. Now it isn't the right type of glass for an amaretto, but I'll just take whatever at the moment. And the reason that I have pre-filled this is because it does actually ask you to pop ice cubes in, and I'm not a huge fan of putting ice cubes into my Thermomix. Just a bit of a weird thing. So I'm going to skip that part as well.
Also just shows how you can adjust the recipes to your liking. So don't think that with a guided recipe, try it the first time and adjust it to your liking. It's like with the sausage rolls. You want to add something else into it, by all means, just adjust the recipe, but they're a really good guide.
So I am just going to skip that section, and just for our pour, I'll just move my camera.
Wow.
Delish.
Oh, that does look good.
So with your ice, obviously you will get a little bit more of a, well, it is quite cold, but you can see down the bottom it has started to separate. So the little bit longer that you let that settle, the better it'll be. So
Cheers.
tastes delicious. I'm not at all upset about that. So as you can see, the longer it sits, the more it'll separate and it'll just come up eventually. It'll be
Yeah, it looks really pretty.
absolutely delicious. So that is me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ellie, for sharing that one. That's definitely a great cocktail to get started for the summer. One you can practice at home first and enjoy the fruits of your labour.
That is exactly right.
All right, over to you, Mary.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Beautiful. Hi, everyone. I'm not going to flash, but I'm going to tell you that I am planning for Christmas. So what I'm doing today is 2 types of toppings or dips. One that I've done, I think, 200, 300 times, which is the herb and garlic dip. But the one I'm going to do is a watermelon canapé with a whipped feta. So stars are the theme of my Christmas this year. I'm hosting at home, so I'm already gathering my recipes. So what I've done is, I just thought I'd show you, when I see a recipe that I'm going to do, on the left-hand side of your screen, which is going to look right because we're back to front here, under my recipes, I've got created collections. And what I've done, I've got quite a lot of collections. I've got Christmas 22. So I'm hosting all my family, so that's about 30 people. So for me, I need to be organised so I can enjoy. So I've actually made sausage rolls today, Belinda, and
Amazing.
frozen them for Christmas. But I thought I'd just give you one little tip. One of the things that I use my Thermomix for a lot is preserves. So cleaning out the fridge, I had a little bit of tomato and fennel relish that I'd made. It's a Danny Valente recipe. It's in Recipe Community under Double Trouble Tomato and Fennel Chutney. It's one of my favourites. I make kilos and kilos of it, but a little bit left over in the jar. So I used some of my sausage mince and made a little log, like a meatloaf, put my tomato feta on tomato fennel chutney and baked it in the oven. So that's another tip if you don't have time to make pastry or you're gluten-free. That's another way to use your sausage mince in another application. So getting back to what we're doing, we're going to do watermelon canapés with whipped feta and walnuts. And I haven't done this before. Belinda did it, I think, about a year ago, didn't you, Belinda?
I did. It's a great one.
So I think you can see that there. I've done some little stars. I don't know if you can see this, but I love rose gold. And this is this was on the mix shop I bought last year, and this is a set of stars. So I've used, you can do any cookie cutter, but I just happened to use this little one here and cut out my watermelon in star shapes. And I also used some cucumber. So I've got some rounds and some stars. So I'm looking a little bit festive before I've even done the topping. So start cooking. I've now got so one of the good things about all this rain is the amazing way that it is growing our herbs, particularly the good old mint. So I have got here some parsley. So 1 sprig of fresh parsley, leaves only, so I don't throw those away. They go into a bag to make my stock. Next, 1 of fresh mint. Look at this, isn't she gorgeous? It smells beautiful. It's a shame we can't have any smells.
My herbs have gone a bit crazy at the moment as well.
There's got to be something good about all this rain, people. Can anyone believe that in nearly November that we're still got scarves and long sleeves on? Oh. Anyway, insert my measuring cup. And next, it's already programmed in the guided cooking for 3 seconds. I just have to turn the speed selector to speed 7. It's basically blitzing it up. Next, of course, the old trusty scrape down. And it has done it beautifully. So they're all beautifully finely chopped. One tip is, if you've washed your bowl, I think Belinda showed you before with the turbo function, if you want to make sure your bowl is really dry to either chop herbs so they don't grip the sides, is use your turbo. That will flick any water that's on your blades off to the side so you can dry it. So you need a dry bowl to do anything like that. So 20 grams of extra virgin olive oil. Look at that, right on. You'd think I'd done that before. Then it says some 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, beautiful lemons out of the garden. Now, what I could do is, my son's just walked in. Can you please take the dog back to Dad? Thank you. You could hit your home button if you wanted to, and that will bookmark your recipe. Swipe across, hit your scales, and I know a teaspoon is about 5 grams, so I could just do about 10 grams. You can never have too much lemon. There you go, 10. Go back into my bookmark, and it takes me exactly back to where the recipe was before. Hit next, and it wants a pinch of salt. Hold on. Hadn't quite unpacked the dinner table, so I just happened to have my salt here. Next, a bit of ground pepper. Insert your measuring cup. And lid. So 10 seconds to speed 9. So this is just going to blitz this all together. So this is basically all this is just a nice version of like a salsa verde. Hard to see in there, but you'll see it when I serve it on. And again, here's another, we didn't pick this for this reason, but it's very handy having another bowl. It says transfer into a serving jar and set aside. I'm going to keep going because we want to keep on time. Clean and dry your mixing bowl. Just happen to have one here. Next, it's going to ask me to insert my butterfly whisk. So this can be, it's not hard to do when you know how to do it, but I thought I'd give you a little bit of a lesson. When you pull your bowl apart, if you look underside the blades, one of the blades has a little like Thermomix blade on it. That is your highest blade. So if you can imagine, that's a clock. At 5 to 12 is how I put my whisk on. And it's not meant to lock into place. It's just meant to give a bit of resistance. So you can kind of feel it. But if you're never sure which one is your high blade, that's a great way to find out. And here's a little video to show you how to do it. Look at that. 5 to 12. So cross that off. We'll go into the next one. Now, this asks for Danish feta, which I was going to go to the supermarket for, but when the heavens opened up, we're going to have Greek feta instead. Now, I always have one of these in my fridge. This and Philadelphian cream cheese and butter are about the 3 dairy products that I always have. So this is Greek, which will be a little bit different in texture. It'll be a bit firmer and probably a little bit more salty, which will work for my palate, maybe not everyone's, but it's just a good thing to know. So it's asking for 150 grams. So I just have pre-cubed that. See if I can. I keep thinking I'm in a demonstration. I can't touch anything with my fingers, but seeing that my family are only going to use it, I'm going to do this. So I hope this is going to work. Again, I haven't done this recipe before. I'm hoping that this feta isn't too firm, but if it's wrong, will have learnt and will know. So a little bit left over for a salad tomorrow night. 60 grams of cream cheese, which I just happen to have here.
I think it'll be fine, Mary, because
I think
it's
it will
not
be
just feta
too.
on its own. Because you're adding the cream cheese, there'll be a creamy enough consistency with it.
I thought it would be, but I thought I should preempt because if it stuffs up, I've done it on TV.
Well, you know, that's what happens sometimes when you can't get access to the specific ingredients that you want, but that's what life's about, compromising.
Well, it is. And I think if nothing we've learnt in COVID, that sometimes you just got to make do, really, you know? So that's close enough, 61. Beautiful. Next, insert your measuring. Here we go. We will find out now. Next. So for 20 seconds, it wants me to do this to speed 4 because as Ellie said, speed 4 is the maximum speed. So here we go. And hopefully I'll put it in right.
I guess the only thing I'd say, Mary, just thinking about Greek feta, is if it's a little bit too hard, you could take the butterfly out and just chop it without the butterfly.
It is actually doing it, but it's probably, I'll keep going with it. It's getting there. We'll go next, see what happens. Scrape down the sides of the bowl. Where did I put my spatula? I'm always losing my spatula. I have a grey granite beige. Oh, here it is in here. Scrape down the sides of the bowl. It is fairly firm, and probably if I did it next time, I would do exactly what Belinda said, and I probably would do it by itself before of it. Next, insert your measuring cup. Asking you again. And for 30 seconds. So this is on speed 3. It's quite amazing to see how quickly the butterfly goes, which is why it whipped those egg whites so beautifully. Next, scrape down the sides of the bowl. And I'll just show you. Whipped it up there like
Perfect.
this. Hopefully. Scrape down the sides of the bowl. I haven't made this one before, Belinda. I can't believe it. So it's now asking for 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And again, this is where I'm not going to dirty a tablespoon. I'm going to bookmark that again. Go across to my scales, and I know depending whether you're American or Australian, it's anywhere between 15 and 20 grams for olive oil. I'm going to do about 30 for 2. Has anyone had any of those Halloween children knocking at their door for lollies tonight?
Now, I just had to do a quick switch back to Ellie's cocktail, which I've just put on the screen. Look at it. It's just, can you see it? It's just showing how it's separated now, just as it's been sitting for a little while. So, yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. So that looks pretty cool.
I just want to know whether Ellie's on her first, second or third. Having a sick baby, I know where I'd be. I've just put a tablespoon of lemon juice in that. And it wants a little bit of salt. And it says 2 pinches. I'm only going to do 1 because Greek feta is particularly salty, which is probably the reason why I like it. Bit of black pepper. And insert your measuring cup again. Up to speed 3. Now it's really starting to whip because it's got that nice moisture from the olive oil.
So this recipe that Mary's making is a really great one that you can have prepped ahead of time. So like she's got a cucumber and a watermelon pieces already cut. You can actually make this filling and the herb bit, and you can literally just throw it all together right when you've got guests coming. So the one thing that I find is that, when you've got people coming at Christmas or celebrations, you don't want to spend all your time in the kitchen. So to do a bit of work earlier ahead of time, that can make a big difference.
One of the things I thought I'd show you too, to prep that too, is I'll show you how this all looks at the end, but I would actually put it in a snap lock bag or a piping bag and have it in the fridge so you can just put it on as soon as someone walks in. So you could make this, I'm sure, a day or two in advance. Have you done it that far, Belinda?
No, I haven't done it that far ahead, but you can definitely just have it. There's lots of things we put in snap lock bags in the fridge ready just to pipe on, like, cupcake icing and various different mousse things that my daughter and I have been making of late. So if you don't have a piping bags from the mix shop are amazing. We get 2 different sizes in the set of piping bags, so it is quite good. But yeah, it's one of those things that it is really pretty, very Christmassy, with the watermelon and the green salsa and the savoury cheese mix.
I've got this dream that, we're going to be sitting underneath the trees and it's going to be about 30 degrees and I'll be coming out, with my cocktails and my watermelon, but we will see.
We'll see about that, won't we?
You're so hopeful, Mary.
I'm just excited for some warm weather. Clean and dry mixing bowl. Then it tells you to cut your watermelon, which we've done. Using a cookie cutter, cut out watermelon. We've done that. Place watermelon, and anyway, it just tells you exactly what I've done. It says top each watermelon round with 1 teaspoon of whipped feta, then garnish with 40 grams of halved walnuts, which I will do. But another little tip is I love buying walnuts high in the shell. It's great if you're having a bad day to give them a bit of a bash and get rid of them. It's really good for frustrations, and also don't throw away these because the actual shells are amazing fire starters. So I actually put them, my mother told me this and I'm going, oh yeah, Mum, no worries. Well, I tried it. They are brilliant. So don't throw
save them
away.
for the winter when you need it, get a fire in the backyard.
Or even if you want, we are going to have a very cool summer, a fire pit outside, and you want to get it really quick. So yes, but very good for the frustrations too. Okay,
I've learned something new.
Now we're going to go back into my my recipes, into my created collections, and back into Christmas 22. I could just about have this in every collection, this one, because this is my go-to dip. And I'm making this to actually have tomorrow. I steamed a chicken yesterday. So we're going to have my favourite sandwiches tomorrow, seeing that my husband's actually got the day off. Steamed chicken with this dip with some cut celery and some walnuts. Yum-o. So this can be a dip, but it's also fabulous for sandwiches. So here we go. Or you could use it instead of the whipped feta. So 1 garlic clove. Now, I think I said before, I'm really into preserving. When garlic is fresh, which will be coming up to the end of this year and the beginning of next year, I actually make this, and this, I don't know if you can see, this is confit of garlic, which I make in the thermo. So peeled, put in here on a low temperature and cooked. So when they're all looking a bit manky or they're shooting, which they are at this time of year, I've had this in my fridge since March 22, so March this year. So my garlic clove is going to come out of here. I don't have any fresh at the moment.
Mary, I have lots of garlic in the veggie patch, so you'll have to dry some out.
Oh, I'll do your barter. I'll do your barter for something.
You'd be more than happy to receive something out of Mary's garden for sure.
So I've got some more fresh parsley here. So this is basically called herb and garlic dip. Again, saving all my ends. I sound like a Scrooge, but, why not?
Waste not.
Waste not, want not. And this is just, I've only got one, but it's a large spring onion. But you could use some of those little shallots. I use a lot of those. I'll just show you.
Or chives. It's been a day in Mary's garden. It is a beautiful garden, Lachlan.
So these are these little Asian shallots. They're quite sweet. So I have those often on board for recipes where it's asking for a quarter or a half of an onion. So I'm going to use spring onion because it's the last one I've got. And then insert your measuring cup. Next, and it wants 3 seconds on speed 7. Just going to whip some oil. Takes longer for the arms to release in that safety function. It does to whip it up. So basically all chopped up. And then it's going to ask me for 250 of cream cheese. Well, I don't quite have that. I've got 60 grams left. So using what I had, rather than make a nice carrot cake with some cream cheese frosting, I'm going to use it for savoury today. There. And next step, it's asking me for 2 tablespoons of natural yogurt. Now, this is just my preference. This is about subbing out. I actually love the lemon juice in it. I think it gives a nice acidity that goes with all that cream. And I think it just gives it a, I don't know, it also probably preserves, if the truth be known, those beautiful green colours. So I'm just taking out the pips. My Maya lemons are amazing. Look at this. And they're full of juice. But they are a pippy sort of a lemon. So there's 2 ways you could do this, actually. I should show you another way. Put your lid on, use your spatula, and just putting pressure into your lemon. All that juice is going in there, but the pips are actually, because of your measuring cup, it's able to allow steam to escape. The pips stay on the top here. And that's just another way to do it where you're not. Just a little tip. Next, insert your measuring cup, which we've already got on, and 20 seconds. Always seems a long 20 seconds when you're just looking at it. Serve immediately. I know this will hold in the fridge. I often used to do this for my children's school lunches. So just to get a little bit out to show you. It's really fresh. It's really yummy and would go very well. I've done this at school with the kids, an easy dip. I would pipe that on to star shape. So I think I've actually showed you my 2. I'm coming back a little bit later to show you the end product and maybe do my version of my cocktail. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you want.
If we've got time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to jump back on and I am going to show you another variation on a really popular dip, but I wanted to show you a different version of a hummus tonight. Now, I wanted to show you that because I've always got somebody in my network who needs a dairy-free dip, and I like to sometimes have options when I've got people coming. So I'm going to make a hummus for you tonight, but I'm actually going to make it as a sun-dried tomato hummus and just show you how you can take a really simple recipe and you can turn it into something a little bit fancy. And like Mary talked about with the herb and garlic dip in sandwiches, hummus actually makes a really nice spread on a sandwich as well. So it's another alternative to have on your sandwiches. So tonight the recipe I've selected is sun-dried tomato hummus with crackers. I'm actually not going to make the crackers tonight. That would take a little bit too long, but my sausage rolls are finished, so I'm going to show you those in a moment. Now, when you scroll down, you can actually skip straight ahead to a different step in a recipe. So if you didn't know that when you scroll down, I'm going to skip the part of the crackers and jump straight to step 5, which is where the hummus is. Now, my Thermomix is asking me if I want to pick the active recipe, and I'm just going to say yes, and then I'll have most of my things here ready to go. So it's just asking for a garlic clove, and we're going to chop that up. I'm not a big fan of chopping garlic up by hand, so the Thermomix is great for making light work, and it's just going to be 3 seconds chopping up a garlic clove. And then we just want to scrape down. Now, I've just grabbed a clean bowl from my previous recipe. Now, my garlic clove actually got a little bit stuck. So I'm just going to show you there it got stuck. So I'm just going to push it back down because we've got the high and the low side of the blade. Every now and again, that'll happen. But not to worry. What you can do is just go back and just repeat that step. So every now and again, a carrot or something will get stuck, and I can hear it's chopping it better now. hasn't got stuck onto that low side of the blade. So that was just something that happens live on camera, but it's good to show you how you overcome those little hurdles. So it's chopped all my garlic up there now. I don't have any really big pieces. So I'm just going to scrape the garlic down because we want it to stay all in the mix. Now with your chickpeas, when you drain your chickpeas, the liquid, you can actually use the liquid from the chickpeas. There's even a cocktail that uses the liquid from the chickpeas. So if you were somebody that couldn't have egg, it's aquafaba using the liquid from the chickpeas. So you can actually make that in a cocktail. So I've never done it before, but it's one thing I'm going to try. Some sun-dried tomatoes. Now I just have the ones that are, I buy the ones in the section in the supermarket that are just in a cryovac pack, so they're not in oil. So it didn't actually say whether sun-dried tomatoes should be in oil, but because I know that they're not, if I need to add a little bit of extra moisture, I'll just add a little bit of extra olive oil, but I'll just kind of work that out as I go. So I'm just going to weigh in. The recipe does call for some olive oil, so it's about 20 grams, but if I think it's a bit dry, I'll just add a little bit extra. Now we want to add some lemon juice. So like Mary, I've got a Mayer lemon tree and I've got beautiful lemons at the moment, but they do have a few pips on them. So just 20 grams of lemon juice. Oh, look, I've got a bit more, so I'm just going to throw it in. And the next thing we need to add is some tahini. Now, I have just purchased tahini. I could make it in the Thermomix, but it's not something that I use every day. So I make lots of other things, but tahini is not one of them. Okay, so just call for a little bit of salt. I tend to always like to season the dishes that I'm making, so add a bit of salt. Now, this recipe also calls for a bit of basil. Now, I don't have lots of fresh basil, but believe it or not, Mary shared a very small plant of basil with me months ago, and I've kept it going. It sits on my windowsill, and I water it every second day, and it gives me a few little leaves, so it's often just enough to add to my recipes to get that little bit of fresh basil in. We need a bit more sunshine to get some fresh basil growing, I think. Okay, so now that's all we need to pop in, and we're just going to whip that together. 20 seconds on speed. Okay, so I'll just show you how our hummus is and we'll see if it needs any more. It's asking me to scrape down so that we can blend it a little bit more. Now, personally, I think that needs to have a little bit more olive oil in it. So it's really just a personal taste and preference, but I'm definitely going to add just a little bit more olive oil. I like it just that little bit smoother. I'm not really sure how much I'm adding. I'm just pouring. And just another 10 seconds and we should be done. Okay, so my hummus is done. So I'm just going to show you this. So the crackers you could make a quinoa and a spelt cracker. So I would like to try those, but I've run out of time to make crackers today. But I love how this has got that beautiful sort of slightly red colour to it. It does make quite a lot, so it's actually quite economical. And if you really want to take your hummus up a notch and have an amazing flavour, I highly recommend you actually cook your own chickpeas. So you can do them in your Thermomix. There'll be a recipe for that. So yeah, definitely have a look at doing your own chickpeas, and you'll probably need your blade cover for that and use the slow cooker function. But what I wanted to show you just now is a couple of options. So it's when you're going out over the Christmas time, it's really great to be able to take a few things. And I took, so here's my sausage rolls already. So they've crisped up really nicely, and I've just added them in a dish here with some homemade tomato ketchup. So this is from the basic cookbook, and it'll be on all your, if you've got a 5, a 31 or a 6, you'll be able to access the basic tomato ketchup recipe. And I noticed that tomatoes in the last week or so have just really dropped in price from what they were. So I highly recommend you do that. But these grazing boxes are really lovely to take to a friend's place for sweet or savoury. They're quite deep, so you can fit quite a lot in, and they come with this really gorgeous lid. So I'll show you what that looks like. But I got this and I thought this is pretty awesome. So I'm just going to take the dip out only because I've piled it up a little bit high. But you can actually take this lid, so it's all covered for when you're going somewhere. And if you didn't want to take that, I highly recommend you take your thermoserver with you, because if you want to keep your sausage rolls warm, if you want to take something like that, your sausage rolls are going to stay warm in there for, up to, I'd say warm for up to an hour. We do say 2 hours, but I think they will lose just a little bit of heat when you're doing your sausage in a thermoserver. So are you right, Mary, for me to come back to you now and show those little canapes? I'm just on mute, Mary.
Sorry, I was cleaning my Thermomix, so I thought you didn't want to hear my turbo.
Oh, good.
So I haven't done it on every single one because there's only Andrew and I home tonight. Without me maybe I could take one up. That's a little
they look
cute
great.
one. And I don't even know if you need a whole half walnut. Depends on how big your stars are, really. But, they look really festive. To me, that looks really lovely. And I actually think that if you pre-make your whipped feta and put it in the fridge, I think it'll pipe better because it's a bit firmer. But, I think that's a lovely little
and great to have it on a black platter, actually. It really makes all those colours jump, doesn't it?
Top. And I thought I'd just show you, because I hate waste, you've probably worked that out, for all those little ends of my, you cut a watermelon down and you take out your shapes. You've got lots of little bits left over. So what I've done is I've put them on a tray and I've frozen them. So tomorrow morning when we have our green smoothie, instead of using ice blocks, I'm going to use watermelon blocks. So I'm going to get a little bit more nutrition, a little bit more sweetness, win-win. The other thing I wanted to say too about that is that if you've got young children, and when we do get some warm weather, put these in here for a fruity dream as part of your frozen dessert.
I have not used watermelon for fruity dream.
Well, it just is part of it. It's just,
yum.
It's you don't have to
strawberry.
use all
I think strawberry and watermelon would be beautiful together.
It's really beautiful. And a bit of pineapple too. That's a really beautiful addition to a fruity dream. So I think that was all I had to do, unless you would like me to,
Well, we've been going for an hour, so I think that I like to keep them to an hour. So I'm really happy that we've done all that. Has anybody got any questions that they'd like to ask us tonight about anything that we've done? Nothing in the chat. Now, I
just say it's lovely to see a few of my customers' faces. There's a lot of you that aren't there, but it's very, very good to see your face. Thank you.
Look, we've actually tried to make Ellie come onto the screen, but I can't work
She's
out
here.
how to show. Oh, I can't see it on my screen. I wonder if I can.
Still here.
There we go. There's lovely Freya. I just want to thank you all for your time tonight. Mary, Ellie and I are just going to hang on for a couple of moments, because we do have a fabulous earn offer for anyone who's interested in actually joining our team. And so I'm just going to hang on if anybody would like to ask us some questions about that, or for anyone who is interested in either getting a second Thermomix, someone for their family, there's a second bowl deal. So we will just hang on for a few moments. But other than that, we'd just like to thank you for your time, and you're very welcome to jump off whenever you're ready.
Can I just say one thing before you go? You talked about chickpeas. Guess what I took out of my freezer? So I batch cooked my dried chickpeas, say that, and I haven't even had a cocktail. I batch cook my chickpeas so that if I need some, I've just got some, and I do them in about 200-gram lots. So
that's
you
perfect.
can put them in the steaming basket or with the blade cover. Bye.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.